This is Voices from the Field with Katie Lively and Jayden Mount, and today we have Joe Smith on the call with us. He is the organizational director for the Colorado Batbusters. So thank you so much, Joe, for hopping on a call with us. We can't wait to get to know you and your organization a little bit better. So if you could just start off by sharing the origin story of the Colorado Batbusters and what inspired you to start this organization and lead this organization.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks again. I appreciate you guys
Yeah.
giving me this opportunity. So yeah, we were just a small kind of organization out of Colorado and just kind of realized that we needed to be part of something bigger. And we kind of we I this is probably back in 2017. I had started looking around and talking to different people. And I went up talking to Mark Campbell, the late Mark Campbell, who with the Batbusters, and he, just had a great conversation with him. And just I could tell like the way they were doing things and even the questions they asked, like he just seemed like the kind of guy that you would want to, an organization you'd want to be a part of. And he just, had made such a big impact on us. So we decided to go with the Batbusters there. Unfortunately, Mark had passed away later that year. And I got to meet Mike Stith and he, he was just amazing too. I can't say enough about what Mike has done for us and our organization. I mean, he's just an amazing guy. Like he's in it for the right reasons. In the beginning, he started kind of just getting us into events that, and then we started playing better and better and better. And then it kind of got to where we were on autopilot and being able to do our own thing. But just Mike, we just learning so much from him. And, just to me, like just a quick thing about Mike, like his attention to detail is amazing. Like, so he'll come out and see our kids and it's funny because meet him one time and he'll ask me about them and remember their name. I'm just amazed by how invested he is. And it's just a quick little story about Mike, just to kind of give you an idea of the kind of guy he is. Like we had a kid, he'd come out every year, like I said, work with our kids. We had an outfielder who was struggling with a concept, and Mike was kind of continuing to kind of stop the drill and making sure that she understood it. And he did it like two or three times, and finally she got it. But she was a little embarrassed, and I was thinking to myself, but she finally got it and it was good. But the thing that I took from it was I know like some people will just come out and they'll kind of go over something. If a kid doesn't get it, they're like, well, that's not my kid. They're not on my team. Just kind of move on. But he was so intent on making sure that kid understood what they were doing, and just like I said, his attention to detail is what makes him so good. But he's been an awesome advocate for us. And it's gotten to the point where now we're on autopilot. I think last year we finished fifth at the Patriot games. I think we surprised a lot of people. Finished fifth at Scenic City Top 25. We're, I think, 13th at the National Power Pool. We wound up losing both our catchers in that tournament and had to play kind of our last two games. Our second baseman was catching for us, but so I mean, it's been phenomenal. But we wouldn't be where we are today without Mike Stith and Mark Hamill and the Batbuster family. So it's been awesome.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I love that you mentioned like Mike, he wanted to stop and make sure the kid understood. I think that's
Yeah,
something that a lot of coaches, like you said, they're just like, oh, they just don't get it. They're not my kid. I'm not going to worry about it. But it's coaches like those that really make an impact on the
yeah.
players. And I love
It
that. I
does.
love hearing
And I
that.
think, as coaches, I think we're always stealing from other coaches. And
Right.
you should be. If you're a good coach, you should be
Yeah.
stealing from what they do. But Mike, like just his level of like just raising the bar, holding kids accountable to that, like he's not going to accept anything less than
Right.
perfection. Like he's shooting for that all the time. And I think that's kind of what I've learned from him is just to really, that's our job as coaches. Because if we let things slide, then it's not you're not doing what's best for the kids. So I think that's what I've taken from him. But yeah, he's incredible at that. So
Awesome. That's
Yeah, I
super
think
cool.
another point to make too. I'm a former college coach and like going out there recruiting and stuff. And some of these kids don't even like they're not coached anymore. It's just like go out there and play ball. So
right.
I think that's a really good thing that he's attention to detail and you've learned that from him. So now
Yeah.
you're taking it to your player. So that's awesome. Kind of just run us through the approach for your like player development on and off the field for your program.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of going back to that same thing with Mike, kind of stealing some of the things that they did. So one of the things that when we went out to watch their practices is how often they do their joint practices, and with some of their older kids, but also the older kids with the younger kids, just the ability to do more in some of these practices where you can have like situations where base runners and things like that, where one team's in the field, other team's base running. But I feel like just a lot of that has been kind of just taking some of their practice plans and what they do. And just really just the other thing I really learned from Mike is is very invested in the younger kids. And I feel like that's something that we took and said, we're going to get our 18s coaches involved at the 12U level, the 10U level. So we really get to know these kids as they come through the organization. I think some organizations, they don't know who their younger kids are, and that's your future. So just kind of, and you'd be surprised when we have, when our 18s get with our 12s, for instance, like, they look at them like they're, celebrities. It's funny. They get there. So, and the 18s, I think, realize how much impact they have on these kids. And when as like you said, Jayden, you said you coached. Like when you were a player, I always think a player should coach at a young age, because once you coach, you see it from a different perspective.
Absolutely.
So these 18s, when they're working and kind of leading the drills, I think they make it sure it's like they take more attention to detail with that drill, even though they know what they should be doing all the time. Like,
Yep.
it's just a different aspect. So I feel like just getting getting the younger kids with the older kids and getting to know the younger kids has been a big part of, for us, the player development and kind of understanding what they need and being more of just like a family group. And again, taking that from Mike as well, from what he does with his group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, like if they can coach those younger kids, like when they're still in high school, like when they go off to college, they're coaching themselves and coaching their teammates. Like
Right.
it takes the coaching part out of it for the coaches, and they're player led, and that's what a lot of programs strive to be. So I think that's really awesome.
You talked about, the older kids and the younger kids and teams practicing together and forming that sense of community within your organization. I think being an organization nowadays, it's really hard to have that sense of community, especially when they're spread out. The teams are all out the state, out the
Right.
region, and playing in all these different tournaments. How else, besides practicing together, do you foster that sense of community amongst your players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's getting to know them personally. I think that's a big thing I've always thought as a coach, like, to be tough on kids, you have to, I've seen the coaches that are just ride the kids the whole time. I feel like you have to invest in those kids, and then they know that you care. And then it makes, then when you do have to get tough on them, they understand that it's coming from a good place. It's not coming from, because if you're just riding them all the time. So I think for us, it's about, just, getting to know them personally and understanding, taking that time to invest in them so that you can, it just gives you the right to be tougher on them and more demanding on them. You're right. It is different, in this day and age, because there's a lot of, like, the teams we play, like, they're all, and I think it gives us there's an advantage and disadvantage. I mean, there's a lot of, when you have teams that are bringing in kids from like 10, 12 different states. And again, we have kids from out of state too, but we're big on practice. Like, we're not a showcase team where we're just going to go and throw kids out on the field. Like, we want to make sure, like, first and all our different defense, everything's buttoned up. We practice it, we work on all that stuff. And I feel like that does give us an advantage. And it come the middle of the summer when we've been working together the whole time. I feel like that is something that gives us an advantage. But yeah, I think just developing the skills where sometimes, like we said, it's hard when you're coming from, you're just coming to maybe a weekend practice and coming together. It makes it hard for some of those teams that have to do that. So I think that gives us an advantage as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kind of going off the college topic, kind of take us through some advice you give to players and families going through the recruiting process.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I mean, I think kids these days, I couldn't imagine with social media, it's changed. Like, I'm old, so I never had that growing up, and everything seems so rosy and so, all you're seeing all these kids that are committing all the time. And, you don't know what the situation is. Sometimes it's, it isn't always what it seems. And I try to tell the parents that too, but we've had kids that, they get a bunch of calls on September 1st and, they're making their decision pretty early. And then we've had other kids that have gotten great offers their senior year. And I think for me, like, faith is big to me. God is big to me. And I feel like trust in God's plan. I mean, there's always, there's things that you want, and sometimes it's not always the thing that is best for you. And at the time it seems frustrating because you're like, this is what I wanted. But then I think most times in life you look back at things and say, that happened the way it's supposed to happen. And so I guess it's about just trusting God's plan, and just understanding that the right fit will come, and just, control the things that you can control, like work hard, be a good teammate, take care of your grades, do all those things. And then the right situation will find you. And I think, just, it's hard to reassure kids of that sometimes. And I've had kids that have talked to me after they found it. They're like, you were saying it and I didn't believe it, but it's true. Like, so it's just getting them to be patient and understanding that not everything is what it seems on social media, and don't get caught up in, seeing other people's things and think you're missing out on something, or, you're less of. I mean, that's that's easy to do in this day and age. And I feel like that's kind of where you have to keep people grounded and just, understanding that. So yeah, that's probably the biggest advice I could give.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I love
Because
that.
me and Katie, because we interview these girls like 2025s, and they're like, Twitter was my biggest thing. Like, well, I graduated in 2016 high school. I think you were 2018. Like, we didn't
Yeah.
do Twitter. Like,
No,
we emailed and
it's
we
different.
called and we went to camps. And so it's just changed within the last 10 years, really. So
Yeah.
I think that's some really good points and some really good things
Twitter's
that
the
you
old
said.
man. Twitter's
Yeah.
the old man social media.
Yeah.
It's us, all us old guys and coaches are on that. So
That's so funny. Yeah, I do think, yeah, I don't know how coaches nowadays, with that social media pressure, kind of putting those blinders on and not looking at who's committing where, who's going on visits where on social media. Because, like
yeah,
Jayden said, like we didn't know who went on visits unless we knew them personally. Like we didn't see it
exactly.
everywhere. So
Yeah,
I'd
and it
imagine it's
starts to
hard.
make you feel like, it can be a blow to your confidence a little bit. And
Yeah,
kids could
right.
be like, but it's, continuing just to keep them, because sometimes it is about just being in the right place at the right time. You've had kids that,
Absolutely.
you go out and it's their dream school and maybe they've come to see them and they just didn't have a good outing, right? And you're like, well, maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe there's someone else
Yeah,
out there. So it's just, it is about just trusting in God's plan,
Absolutely.
and it's going to be, you can't ride every high and every low because you're going to go crazy if that happens. You just got to
yeah,
just try. It's not easy. I mean, like I said, I
yeah.
could I could tell other kids that, but if it was happening to me, I would, I wouldn't. I never listen to the advice that I give, unfortunately. But yeah, so it
Yeah.
is tough. It is
It's
tough.
tough. It is really tough. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. But so with the Batbusters organization, we've already kind of heard a lot about, how you do things, what you guys believe in and what you value. Just give us a little bit more on what sets your organization apart from other organizations within the state or even the region, for travel softball.
Yeah, I think again, I do think it is going back, some of those things that we pointed out about trying to get involved. I feel like sometimes some of the organizations I've seen around here and in our region, I feel like a lot of teams are in silos. They're under the same umbrella, but they're really not, talking to each other. We really try to make sure we our coaches are all on the same page. We have a lot of the same, even bringing on coaches like look, just get coaches that are about the kids, that are in it for the right reasons and all those things. So we've always, that I took that to heart probably most of anything. So when we bring people on, we want people that we know are in it for the right reasons. And we try to do things like as a group and as an organization. One of the other things that I learned again from Mike is in Colorado, it's tough sometimes to get, and I think probably a lot of places in the country, it's tough to get bigger rosters. Like everyone wants to play with 12, 13 kids.
Yeah,
I feel like, a lot of times you get situations where a kid will look and say, well, there's a good shortstop on that team. I don't want to, I'm going to go to this other team. And one of the things I learned from Mike is the internal competition is so big. Like, because when they get to college, they're going to have that. And if you've never had to compete, because again, they're your teammates, but you're competing with them for playing time. And
yeah,
and when you have two kids that are going at it and trying to make, trying to win a spot, it makes both kids better. And they get used to that internal competition to when they go to college, they come in as more like a junior than a freshman because they
yeah,
understand that level of
right.
competition. And there's some kids that have never gone up against that internal stuff
Yeah,
and they struggle with it. You get there and there's two other All-Americans that are on your team, or and you're like, oh, what, I got to go compete against them to get
yeah,
playing time. So it's just,
yeah,
I think trying to foster that internal competition is what, some bigger rosters that maybe I think in this area they don't really carry as much, and
yeah.
and it turns some people off. Some people are like, well, we don't want to be in that, and that's fine. But we know that going in, we want kids that want to compete internally, and I feel like that makes everybody better when you do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Joe, for getting on a call with us. I loved, hearing about your story and your organization, doing things the right way and just really building these girls up and empowering them, to be able to play at the next level. So thank you for joining us. We wish you the best of luck in the fall season. I don't know if y'all play as much in the fall as you do in the spring
Yeah,
now
we
with
get a
school
few. We got
ball.
a few coming up. Our high schools, we have
Okay.
states coming up this weekend,
Okay,
and we have a
perfect.
mad rush in November for a few, and then we take a
Yeah.
little bit of a break. So
Yeah,
it'll
well,
be
perfect.
good.
Well, good luck whenever
Yes.
y'all start
Thank
playing.
you.
I know it's a little bit different, but yeah, and just please feel free to reach out with any ideas, any stories, or any way that we can help you at all.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you again. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
Nice to
you.
meet
All right.
you.
You have a good
All
day.
right. Nice meeting you
Bye.
guys. Take
Thanks.
care. Bye.
Bye.